So the latest is that a few things are happening here and there, because some of you have been asking what next. So what is the next step? What are we going to be doing? This and that and all this kind of thing. So what next? For me, what I think is that yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for subscribing to the channel, following me, liking the page, and doing all sorts of things to support the plight of the Ugandan people. So most of the people are asking me, the most common question right now is what next? What next? Now that Museveni has rigged the election, of which we all knew that he was going to rig, but we never thought that it was going to be so stupid in how they were rigging, whereby we thought that it was going to be very hard for us to expose the rigging and for us to, to prove that Museveni actually rigged and stole the election. Right now, everyone believes and everyone knows, in and out of Uganda, that Museveni actually stole the election, meaning that he stole the victory of the Ugandan people. The other thing is that when you look at the social media now, after putting the internet back on, evidence is surfacing left, right, and center of what actually happened on January the 14th when Uganda went to the polls. Now, we shouldn't pay much attention to Museveni's hand-picked observers from different parts of the country as well as outside Uganda. Because what these observers did, most of them, of course, are financed by Museveni himself to go and observe, what is going on at different polling stations. Also, these observers, they have to indicate where they are going to observe. And for that reason, Museveni does not tamper with those particular polling stations. So that's why their observations cannot be termed as credible, because it is Museveni that actually pays them to come and observe the elections in order to give him legitimacy. So most of you are asking what next. I think the question depends on who is asking. Well, if I told you are Ugandan living in the diaspora, maybe you're on social media, there are so many things that you can do. Number one, denouncing Museveni's victory. Number two, upholding Bobi Wine as the duly elected president of Uganda. This can be done by engaging and by posting and exposing Museveni all over the place. The other thing is, we should continue to push the international community. Most of you keep saying that the international community will not do anything and so on and so forth. Yes, they won't do anything. That is, if we do nothing. Because the reason as to why it matters for us to push these people, it is because they are the biggest funders of Museveni. These are the people that give him the money. These are the people that give him the training. So we need to push and make sure that all this stops. That's what we need to do. Because even if we just look here, ladies and gentlemen, if we just sit back and do nothing about these so-called foreign donors and international players that have been propping Museveni in power for 35 years, if we just sit back and do nothing, and they just keep sending in the money, they just keep sending in the dollars, the pounds, and the so-called francs, what do you think is going to happen? And the euros? I think here we have a chance. The exposure that Museveni has got, there is no way that the international community can defend his actions. Back in the days, they used to defend his actions. They would even come and observe his elections and term them as credible and term them as free and fair, regardless of their irregularities. But we are bearing fruits now, especially from what happened in the past elections, that lots of high-profile Ugandans who have worked under Museveni, the likes of Gen. Kale Kaihura and others, have actually been put on sanctions, meaning that we are actually now bearing fruits. The fruits are now out there. And whatever happened, ever since Kyagulanyi came to the scene, it means that if we push harder, we can get more people, to be sanctioned. We can get more people to be put on travel restrictions, and this will be sending a clear message to the rest of the people who are working for Museveni. And let me tell you this, the Electoral Commission chairman and his entire team, those people, they are going for sanctions, like it or not. They are going for sanctions. Today, the United States of America came out and asked for a full audit of the election results that took place in Uganda. Because when they looked at the issues, they also say that, okay, the things do not actually add up. How did you come to this figure? Now, if you want a problem with the Electoral Commission and Museveni, is to tell him to actually bring out the evidence to the result that they are giving the nation to take in. They cannot prove the results on how they got them. Even the so-called donors and all these people, they do not agree with the results. And that is why they are asking for the audit. At long last, after our cries and after our pushing that we are doing, also the United Kingdom issued a statement. Of course, it is cliche, the statement that, oh yeah, you should investigate, do this and this and that. At least we got a statement out of them. And it is from that statement that we need to follow up and keep pushing with these people. So if you're not Ugandan, what you can do is to help us to push more, to call your MPs, to call your senators, to call everyone in high offices in the countries where you live and ask them about the Ugandan issue. What do they think? Also look at different people. For example, the person has been trending known as the Archbishop of York, Sentamu, who protested against Robert Mugabe a few years ago. But when it came to his country where he actually comes from, he is quiet. He is mute. It's like he doesn't see what is going on. And the Archbishop is always in the news. He's always out there doing press conferences and, attending different things. So if you live in the UK, or if you live in the area where the Archbishop of York comes from, please give him a call and ask him to intervene and ask him to do something about his nation, Uganda. The gentleman known as Archbishop Sentam, Archbishop of York. Now, for those of us, or for those of you who are in Uganda, we need to raise up through non-violence, through non-violent means, and protest the vote and protest the results that the government is giving us to consume. When should we protest? It doesn't need to be today. It doesn't need to be tomorrow. But when the time is right, you will know when the time is right to peacefully protest through constitutional means. Today, Bobi Wine was having an exclusive interview with the Daily Monitor, and he said that he is looking at all options. And one of the options he is looking at is going to the courts of law. And I think if at all that option is there, we can also utilize it. Because we know that we have overwhelming evidence that actually proves that the tampering, that the intimidation, the harassment that the government used against Bobi Wine would actually have changed the result that Museveni purports to be the legitimate results that the Electoral Commission gave. Because between 2001 and 2006, when Besigye went to court, the Electoral Commission said that even though there were these kind of irregularities, the outcome of the election would not change. So the two elections stood. In 2016, they said that Amama Mbabazi did not have sufficient evidence to overturn the election. So it stood. So going to court, what we are looking for, of course, if Bobi Wine goes to court, what will be happening if the most we can get out of a court is a re-election? Going back to the elections again. That is the most we can get out of the courts. Because I do not believe that the courts will actually, unless if at all, what I think is the outcome might be, because it's not the role of the court to announce the winner. The role of the court is to say that, okay, the election was not free and fair, and so it should be done. The exercise should be done again. Now, in Africa, it has happened before. It happened in Kenya. It has also happened in recently Malawi, I think. Yeah, in Malawi recently it happened where the Supreme Court overturned the election. Now, That's what we want. Also, we shall also be using that avenue. Now, for the other issue about the international community, what I didn't talk about is where the UN Watch, the organization that is accredited by the United Nations to actually monitor the United Nations, it also came out and gave a statement. This is all about the work that we are doing to expose Museveni, to show him to the world on the kind of person he really is. And that's what Museveni doesn't want. He doesn't want to be portrayed in that way. He doesn't want to gain this sort of attention. Because what he wants to do is to keep himself away from the media, to keep himself away and go back and hide and do all these kind of things in a quiet manner. But we are not giving him that. That is why you see the statement is there. They said that congratulations to... the UN Watch actually congratulated Museveni, saying that on winning the re-election after murdering, imprisoning and silencing opponents, shutting down the internet and committing widespread voter fraud. That is the UN Watch. So if you can get such organizations to even make a statement, at least to portray what exactly happened in Uganda, whoever comes out saying otherwise in the international realm, international community, then that person it doesn't know what they're actually talking about. For your information, the UN Watch is the only accredited organization in the world that actually monitors the United Nations. So that is what they had to say about Museveni. So you can see things are happening. We are pushing harder, and we are making sure that the victory of the Ugandan people is not stolen. So we are bearing fruits even before we have started more aggressive means. Because when the worst comes to the worst, people will actually go out there to the streets. Now, one of you might be asking, okay, why aren't the people on the streets there protesting and so on and so forth? Now, this is what is happening. Museveni expects us. He expects us to go out there on the streets. He expects us to rise up. And that is what we should be doing. He has deployed the entire military, getting soldiers from Sudan and all over the place. And he is waiting. When we strike like this on the streets, then he will make sure that he gets everything, wrap up everyone and, arrest as many people as he can and kill as many people as he can. Now, we can rush in and crash, or we can give it some time. Let me tell you one thing. You see, the amount of money that the government of Uganda is spending to have those soldiers on the streets and to have all those trucks and machinery and police officers and the CMI and intelligence, everything on the streets, it is very costly to the taxpayer. Secondly, if Museveni thinks that, okay, he has two options. Have your soldiers on the streets and all this entire outfit. Have it there for 5 years, patrolling the streets of Uganda, looking for any dissident, looking for any opposition supporter, looking for any Bobi Wine supporter. Have them there for 5 years. If you can afford it, especially when the UN takes away, or when the Americans take away your funding, as well as the British take away your funding, it is not sustainable. Museveni's duration is, I should be having these people on the streets for at least 3 months or 4 months. That is all he can afford. Let me tell you one thing. Some people might say, yes, we have to go now. For those who can go now, it is right. Because the problem is this, that, look here, we have just come through a sort of violent, turbulent and violent campaign. People have been killed left, right, and center. Most of our comrades that have been, at the forefront of, working, to in campaigns and all these kind of things, all of them have been arrested. Now, what we need to do at the next stage, if at all people are to go and protest, it has to be highly planned. It doesn't have to happen like, okay, people just come out and throw themselves on the streets. Yes. For me, I'm very, very, very confident. You see, Ugandans are very patient people. If they manage to be patient with Museveni for 35 years, trust me, when the time for protests come, Museveni will not even know where they have come from. Because they are being patient with him. And the day is going to come, I might not know the day, it is going to be spontaneous, bang, be on the streets. By the time they will galvanize all these so-called soldiers and security men, no one will be available to save the old man. Trust me. People are gonna rise up. It might not be today, it might be today. It might not be tomorrow, it might be tomorrow. But what we need to tell people is to make sure that the message stays within the people, and tell them Museveni rigged your victory, Museveni rigged your votes. He's not the legitimate president of Uganda. We should make sure that we rise up against such sort of undemocratic practices by the dictator. Unless if Museveni decides to hold his army and all these security guys for 5 years. For 5 years, of which he cannot. And trust me, even if it happens for 5 years, people will get used to them. So when we get used to them, time is still going to come and people will throw themselves on the streets to protest. Peacefully, through non-violent means. That is what is going to happen. So, what next? What do you think we should do next? For me, this is just my ideas and maybe my way of seeing things. Because do not engage Museveni when he is much prepared. Do not engage him when he is, much aware that he is expecting. When you are much aware that he is expecting you. Hit him at a time he least expects you. And that is when you'll get the most out of it. He never anticipated that people would protest on November 18th and 19th when he arrested Bobi Wine. Look what happened. And let me tell you one thing. The reason as to why things hang in balance, that Museveni doesn't know when people are going to come out. He knows the day is coming. He knows the day is coming that people are going to come out and raise up. The problem with him is he doesn't know when. That is it. That is what is playing on his mind. He's like, when are they really coming? I need to know that day. I need to be ahead of these people. Unfortunately, he is not ahead. Bobi Wine is already ahead. So Museveni is just playing with a lot of uncertainty. And as a matter of fact, it is affecting all his plans and how he is going to work the next 5 years. Because he knows that he might not be president for this year. He might not even be president he might even not complete he might even not reach June. That is a possibility as well. Because what Bobi Wine does is, he plays a long game. Museveni just plays a short game here. He's just someone who looks at things just here. Bobi Wine plays a long game. And when you least expect him, that's when he strikes. And that is what makes Bobi Wine supporters very dangerous in Uganda. For Museveni's tactic is, let me arrest all of them, take them away, let me kill most of them, let me do this to most of them. But unfortunately, the tactics are not working. He cannot turn off the internet all the time. He cannot switch off the internet for the entire 5 years. He can't. So ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are waiting for what is next, I hope you can find something within what I have said. I might not be right, I might be wrong. But I'm looking forward to hear from what you think from the comments below. Thank you very much for listening. We shall be giving you more updates that are coming that are coming up in Uganda, and trying to answer a few questions here and there, and what we can do or what we should be doing, and so on and so forth. Bye bye.